Hello, everybody, and welcome to week number 1 of ESL's King of the Hill. My name is TJ, and I'm joined by Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora. Admiral, how you doing this morning, man?
Doing pretty fantastic. We have a stacked lineup to kick off our week number 1.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see how these guys are prepared for it. And a little bit of twist on the format as well. How you doing, TJ?
I'm doing great, man. Looking forward to it. Week number 1, and we got some fantastic Hearthstone for you, as well as Overwatch later in the day.
Yes.
So it should be great. But we're going to start off with Hearthstone. That's why we're here, Admiral. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rule set and the format that we'll be seeing for the Hearthstone. Of course, we'll have a single elimination 4-player bracket. Since we don't have a king yet, that's what week number 1 is going to be all about, crowning that first king.
Yeah.
It's going to be best of 7 conquest, but it's going to be a little bit of a different format than what you might be used to. It's best of 7 conquest with a self-ban. So you ban one of your own decks instead of one of your opponent's decks. That adds a little bit of an interesting twist to it.
Yeah, I mean, this format was used a little bit in Korea during the OGN series, and it was really interesting to see how things panned out. And, you know, I feel like with the self-ban, rather than just crafting a lineup that's meant to target your opponents, maybe you can take a few more risks. And if you have a weak spot in that lineup because of it, just take that one out of your lineup and don't have that weak spot anymore.
Yeah, definitely. So it should be good. And of course, the winner gets $500 and returns next week as the king to defend their throne. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket for today for top-tier players from North America and Europe. Thijs versus Chakki to start things off, then Firebat and Amnesiac in the second match of the day.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, how could you just have a more stacked 4-player bracket, really? I mean, these 4 have amassed well over $250,000 in lifetime winnings. We have 2 champions from their respective regions this year who headed to BlizzCon. Chakki, who won the first North American DreamHack, and the first world champion with Firebat 2014.
Yeah, so definitely a stacked lineup for week number 1. We're going to have to see who comes out on top as the king. If we remember back to ESL's original king a long time ago, like 2 years ago, Chakki held the throne for many, many weeks in a row. So maybe he'll be able to come back in the new revised King of the Hill and do exactly that again. But there's the schedule for today. 3 best of 7s. And there you go. Crowning of the king will happen in just a few hours once we wrap those up. So should be great. Week number 1 is all invites. It's 4 invites since we do have to crown that initial king. But moving forward, this is going to be a weekly event. Moving forward, 1 player will have the chance to make it through an open tournament to come and try and take the title and take the throne away from the king. So if you guys want to participate, make sure you head over to esl.gg/KOTHHS or King of the Hill Hearthstone. And sign up. There's limited spots, so make sure you get in on the action quick. You can have your chance to fight off against some of the top pros in North America and Europe, and maybe win some money and crown yourself as the new ESL king. So head on over there and do that ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, if you manage to stay at the top for a few weeks in a row, that's quite a bit of cash you can put together just for playing some Hearthstone. I can't think of much of a better way to spend a couple days, here and there. Just go ahead and play it. That sounds like a wonderful thing to me. I'm going to go sign up right now and play.
Yeah, well,
jam it on my phone.
Don't think you have time because it's about time to jump into game number 1 of match number 1. It's Thijs versus Chakki. And we talked about this earlier. Thijs, of course, coming off of a Europe championship earlier this year. Chakki coming off a big win at DreamHack Austin.
Yeah.
So, both these players have had a lot of success recently across other tournaments, across big premier tournaments.
Thijs also just had a pretty fantastic Seat Story Cup as well. Losing to Life Coach, who was the eventual winner.
Yeah. Really
late in the bracket. And they had identical lineups, I believe it was, too. So that was really exciting to see. And then just with Chakki, just, again, being so consistent over the tournaments. I mean, right after DreamHack, he also made Finals of Xfinity, I believe it was.
Yeah. All right, Thijs versus Chakki. Thijs going to throw out the Druid first off. And Chakki looks like he's going to throw out a Dragon Warrior. And we did see an Inner Rage in the opening hand. And a Blackwing Technician as well. So 2 interesting cards that aren't seen all the time in Dragon Warrior. But have been seen as tech cards here and there.
Yeah, I've been kind of seeing this creep up a little bit more lately, where Blackwing Technician seems to be one of the 3 drops of choice for this build. And I'm curious exactly what that is a nod to. I don't know if they just need another 3-drop, or if you just really need the health on the back end that bad. I mean, Fierce Monkey feels like a pretty good card in this slot.
Yeah.
But Blackwing Technician over and over again has been the choice that I've seen in that particular spot. So I'm guessing the 5 health really makes a big impact.
Yeah. Thijs is playing a Token Druid. It seems like a pretty standard version of Token Druid, but Thijs and Life Coach actually are pretty known for not playing Yogg-Saron in their token druids.
Yeah.
They tend to go for a more consistent late game and a pretty heavy late game, you know, playing multiple late game drops with Cenarius and Onyxia with double Ancient of Wars. So very greedy, very top end, but also sort of consistent in the late game as opposed to having Yogg-Saron.
Well, I mean, maybe coming from your perspective, the Yogg-Saron's not so consistent, and I've seen how that card's brutalized you, but that card is fantastic. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Yogg-Saron's one of the most powerful cards in the game.
Yeah.
You know, just after seeing what that card has done to certain board states, I'm almost kind of thinking it's just almost a mistake not to play it. I mean, the fact that you could just be that far behind and then go from almost no chance to win to almost no chance to lose is a major effect to be foregoing.
Yeah, and you know, it's a decision that's tough to make, and Thijs and some of the GG boys decided to make that decision. So see how it works out for him. This is a crazy moment in Hearthstone's history, because both of these players got their starts from competing in open tournaments and King of the Hill style formats.
Yeah.
Chakki became known because of his performances in the old ESL King of the Hill. Thijs became known by his performances in like the Machinima Deck Wars and whatever the other King of the Hill format was that was good at the time. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was like some guy, like I think his name was like Artosis or something. He ran like some King of the Hill thing, and Thijs won like 9 of them in a row.
I think it was like 11 in a row.
No,
it was absurd. He won like every week.
I'm pretty sure it was 9 in a row.
Okay.
But I remember watching it back then, because that was kind of like where I first got my start in stuff too. And when he just kept winning, I was like, I mean, sure, he was getting a little bit lucky here and there. To win 9 straight matches in a row, you do need to get a little bit lucky. But he was playing incredible, and his lineups were always so good.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to watch that someone I had like never heard of, that I'd never played against, I'd never seen, was just crushing everyone. It was awesome.
Nobody even knew how to pronounce his name. Back then, Thijs was Tijus and Savich was Savages.
I remember, you know, it's funny. I remember calling Savich Savages, and I almost always remember thinking when I saw Thijs' name that I was like, he had to have typed in this and just accidentally hit the J.
Yeah.
And then that's when my American culture really showed at that point.
Yeah. You know that you're a successful Hearthstone player when one of the best players in the world, Thijs, has your real name inside of his Hearthstone name.
Wow.
TJ.
That's actually
it's
impressive. In there. It's also got HS in there. TJ Hearthstone.
TJ Hearthstone.
Wow.
TJ Hearthstone. It's me.
Yes, it is TJ Hearthstone. Take a look at this Raven Idol spectator. Did give us a little bit of a bug out here. This happens from time to time with Discover. So apologies for that one. Hopefully won't encounter that too much more. But Feral Rage, the pickup, not exactly too strong in the Dragon Warrior matchup. I would venture to say his choices were pretty limited. That's because I didn't actually catch a glimpse at him.
Yeah.
But Feral Rage just really not bringing a lot of pressure against this deck. You know, if you want to kill Blackwing Corruptor, you got to take 5 to do it. If you want to taking out like Twilight Guardian, you need extra power behind it. It's a card that can serve some function, but overall is fairly weak. So looking at the hand panouts, Chakki has got a great turn 4, but he doesn't have a great turn 5. But with Thijs heading into 8 mana and only Ancient War being his play, Chakki's turn 5 is not looking so bad. And then the turn 6 is where things start to pick up for him. But Thijs just has a ton of gas the entire step of the way. I mean, you're looking at double Ancient War Cenarius.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff to do. Chakki's got his work cut out for this game.
Yeah. We'll see if he's going to be able to get through it. It's going to be the big question. Get through those Ancient of Wars, but definitely got the tools to do it. And I wonder if Chakki runs Frothing Berserkers in this deck. Does he change out the Frothing Berserkers for the Blackwing Technician, or does he add it as an extra 3-drop just to try and make that early game more consistent?
I would definitely say that cutting it is just, I mean, that's got to sound kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
Frothing Berserker,
that's such a good card.
It's like a win condition.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very rarely said about a 3-mana card, is that it's a win condition. But Frothing Berserker certainly fits that bill.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to see as this game moves forward. Thijs here, most likely going to throw down an Ancient of War. I think the question here for him is Living Roots or no Living Roots? And if we are going to Living Roots, are we going to Living Roots for damage, or are we going to Living Roots just to make those 2 extra 1/1s? If he makes it 2 extra 1/1s, he becomes incredibly vulnerable to like Ravaging Ghoul Execute.
Yeah, I think
he's got a board full of 1/1s and a big drop.
I feel like he could be fairly comfortable that Ravaging Ghoul isn't in Chakki's range right now, because last turn we were staring at 3 1-health minions.
Yeah.
And we didn't see a Ravaging Ghoul.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think Thijs is there. It thinks it's there. But I think the other question for him is how valuable are the 1/1s versus the spot 2 damage from hand.
Yeah.
And so I think I would tend to favor holding on to this point as well. I mean, your hand is just so strong as it is. Well, how much value is the 2/1s really adding right now?
Yeah.
Not looking to armor first, does want to be able to utilize hero power and the rest of his hand. And life tap, not too bad.
He does have a lot of plays for the next couple turns. So maybe steady shot's going to give him more gas in the long run.
That's definitely something that's really interesting to think about, too.
Yeah.
Is in this matchup, it can turn into kind of a grind where you're having to attack taunts over and over again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you can just actually put through enough damage, it becomes a big deal. In very true Chakki fashion, we're seeing the steady shot be picked up here. Loves to be aggressive, loves to put damage.
Yeah.
And this is about to push 8. So that sets Thijs down to 16, just outside the activation of that Dragon and Crusher. If your opponent's at 15, that bad boy's a 9-9. But at 16, just a 6-6.
Yeah. Just put him in range to be able to get it next turn. But there's going to be another Ancient of War in the way. So that might put a little bit of a wrench in Chakki's plans.
Yeah, I'm curious if Thijs is thinking Cenarius or Ancient of War here. And I think that knowing that Chakki's moving into a Draconic Crusher turn, and if Thijs has been paying attention, those 2 cards have been in Chakki's hand the entire game so far.
Yeah. And they're dragons.
Really, yeah, that might really, at least one of them's a dragon.
Yeah.
That might really influence the way that he chooses to go about this.
Yeah, there's an option for a board clear here, but you're giving up all initiative in order to go for it with swipe, living roots plus feral rage. So definitely like the Ancient of War here. And Chakki doesn't really have a great way to get through this, so he might just have to plop down a Draconid Crusher and go from there and just hope that Thijs isn't going to be able to punish Chakki for missing that 1 turn. So
Thijs is really stressing over this attack. I mean, the reason you played the Ancient of War was to prevent Draconid Crusher being activated. So you're kind of relegated in that play, and you can see almost visible frustration in Thijs, feeling like maybe he's falling behind.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. You're getting pretty low health. If Chakki had a second execute here, it'd be so easily activated by that Sir Finley. He'd push through. He'd push at least 8 damage with what's on the board, plus the steady shot. So I think that's, that's always a stressful feeling, especially since that's one of his last taunts, if you don't count Cenarius, which is, it's taunts, but they're not as strong as an Ancient of War. So, yeah.
Yeah, I figured Chakki was going to go for a line similar to this one where just nothing looks good at this point. But the thing about it is when your hand is a pair of 9/9s and then a Grom, and you're at 21 and you are the one with the board right now, I think you feel pretty comfortable taking a risk like this. Thijs picks up Sylvanas.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty huge draw right now, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way for Dragon Warriors to deal with Sylvanas cleanly.
Yeah.
Execute is their best hard removal, but what a Dragon Warrior wants to do is to gain tempo and control the board throughout the game and always be ahead.
Right.
But Sylvanas usually makes them just trade their whole board and then pass over their turn.
Wow, I'm really surprised that Thijs is actually going with the scenarios here, moving into Chakki's turn 7. I mean, if he had gone with Swipe and Sylvanas in this spot, Chakki would just have like no reasonable play this turn.
Yeah.
Like, he could have shut off almost everything. And while the taunts are definitely shutting off some stuff here, I don't know about that one. Picks up a second swipe now. I think Thijs has turned this game around. Those 2 pickups back-to-back alongside Chakki's fairly poor turn 6, that's probably spelling a win for Thijs this game.
I mean, he's just 3 damage off lethal this turn. Like, he's actually getting close to just killing Chakki himself because Chakki did give up the armor up. He did take quite a bit of damage earlier from swinging in with that Rusty Hook.
Could just Feral Rage him now, too. I mean,
yeah.
And then set up for lethal next turn. I mean, this is a really easy spot for Thijs to set up lethal here.
Yeah, there's so many winning plays here. He just has to find the one that wins him the larger percentage of the time. And it might just be the one where you set him up for a guaranteed 2-turn lethal is going to be the one. You know that Dragon Warrior doesn't run Armor Smiths, at least most of the time. He gave up his hero power surfing. No way to gain health.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that Thijs has any losing plays in this spot. Like, it feels to me at this point he could almost kind of just close his eyes and click buttons and win. And it really just boiled down to like
I have no time
having a powerful minion this turn and then also drawing the second swipe. He just drew so much of his damage and was able to establish the board presence. That's largely on the back, Chakki not having Fiery War Axe, not having... Thijs actually goes for armor here too, which is really interesting. I'm kind of curious what could have killed him in that spot. I actually don't think there's a combination of cards in Dragon Warrior that could kill him from there.
Just might as well rub it in Chakki's face. Look how much health I'm at.
Still had all these.
You tried so hard, you got so far, but in the end, I gained 8 armor. I think that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's exactly how that goes, actually.
But that's going to be Thijs taking game number 1. So Chakki going to have to go back to the drawing board and, try and pick up some wins. You got to fight from behind. But before we jump into game 2, we are going to have to take a quick 1-minute break, guys. But don't go anywhere. The conclusion of Thijs versus Chakki will continue right after this. Welcome back to ESL King of the Hill. We're midway through the series of Thijs versus Chakki, our first match of the day. We just saw Thijs take game number 1. So we're going to move into game number 2, and we have some updates on the decks here. So as we mentioned earlier during the format, this is a best-of-7 conquest with a self-ban. So these players can ban one of their own decks if they feel it's going to be weak against their other players' lineup. So Thijs did bring Hunter, which is a deck that usually is a 5th deck in this type of format, and he did go ahead and ban that away from himself. And Chakki brought Warlock and banned that away from himself. So any thoughts onto what these decks might have contained that would have made them lean towards banning it?
Yeah, so when I take a look at Thijs' lineup and banning the Hunter, he's facing off against Chakki with Druid, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. Hunter is just not matching up well there. It's like a pretty clear self-ban. The thing that's really interesting to me is that Thijs did not bring Rogue to this. Yeah. But Chakki did bring Rogue to his lineup. Yeah. So I'm curious how that's going to pan out in this next game, which is getting underway right now, game number 2. And it is going to be an aggro Shaman for Chakki. Again, pretty much never a surprise to see. Chakki, just for years, has favored aggression. And even at times when the aggressive decks just don't seem that strong, he's finding a way to put up impressive numbers with it. Yeah,
it's very true. Very true. People know Chakki as sort of being an aggressive player, even though I think Chakki is more just a well-rounded player that likes to capitalize on greedy metas with aggressive decks. He is still one of the best players in the game at playing aggressive decks. So
the thing about it is, I remember one of the first times that I was practicing actual end game with Chakki, where we would deliberately play control decks versus each other. It became really apparent to me how good Chakki was. It was kind of a nightmare. I mean, I've been playing cards for 2 decades at this point. I feel like I know my way around those, but Chakki he finds spots to really put you in uncomfortable positions. Yeah. And I kind of took this light where I was like, do you just like playing really aggressive decks? He's like, yeah, it's fun killing people fast. I was like, yeah, fair enough.
Wise words. Wise words. But Chakki goes into a pretty rough matchup for game number 2 here. Thijs is actually playing Zoo, which, Thijs, when he does bring Warlock, usually tends to lean towards Reno or control variants as opposed to Zoo. And 2, in the past couple tournaments that he played, he hasn't even brought Warlock.
Yeah, which is I mean, it's very possibilities. I'm curious what the preparation was for this. I mean, I'd really like to kind of get just their thoughts on it and hear what it was. The format being so different from what these guys have been playing for the past 2 years. Yeah. Self-ban has it's not really been a thing in the Western scene. Yeah. Thijs just looks stressed, too. He's so focused. Yeah,
Thijs I mean, he cares a lot about winning. That's something that I've, even just meeting him at the Europe Championship when he won, he cares so much about Hearthstone and about his success as a player. So he takes every tournament seriously.
Yeah, a little curious about this turn. This feels like a pretty easy flame in Voidwalker. The Voidwalker is protecting your flame. If your opponent has Flame Tongue Totem, you get to take a Flame Tongue Totem with the Flame Imp afterwards. So everything points to the bot lane duo here.
Yeah.
I'll
Attacking support. Now, Abusive Sergeant was kind of the one that this was weak against, but I think you got to roll the dice at some point.
Yeah. And you know that if he has Abusive Sergeant, he has to have another 2-drop as well. Or if he has Flameton Totem, he trades in, you get kill free Flameton Totem. So I do agree with this one. It also sets up better for the Direwolf Alpha play next turn. So Chakki is going to slightly punish this, but the Flameton's still going to get a favorable trade. And this matchup's almost always all about the early board. There are some situations where, you know, there can be like a tie in the early board and the Shaman can win because they get a Doom Hammer and they can just kill all your minions and push the face damage. But when you can make favorable trades early, a lot of times that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of looking at this board state and that Forbidden Ritual in Thijs' hand. I'm curious how this turn actually goes, because I feel like Direwolf Alpha is a little bit poor this turn. You're getting almost 0 value out of it. And if you're going to make a trade, the Direwolf Alpha, you're just kind of sending it out to die.
Yeah.
So I think the Forbidden Ritual here is totally fine. I mean, a lot of times this matchup Forbidden Ritual can just be a massive board swing.
Yeah.
But 2 1/1s here is pretty gosh darn good.
Yeah. Chakki's most likely going to follow this up with a Feral Spirits plus a trade in the Flame Imp. So he'll be left with 2 2/3s and those 2 1/1s. That's something that they don't match up well against.
Yeah.
At all.
Yep, so okay opening curve for Chakki, leads into Feral Spirit. Doesn't have that massive power from Tonal Trog and Totem Golem. Thijs, meanwhile, working off of sort of the premier minions. His deck sans the Forbidden Ritual. But again, the 2 1/1s I think is like kind of one of the best situations to work with here. Chakki does pick up Totem Golem though. But now the issue is that will delay Doomhammer if he plays it. And I can promise you that Chakki has played this matchup a ton of times and knows that landing a turn 5 Doomhammer is critical to this matchup.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you're on cleanup duty with that card, not necessarily just pushing damage.
Yeah.
And that allows you to kind of unlock the potential of Totem Golem and Flame Wreath Faceless later on.
If you can kill 2 minions every turn from a Zoo Warlock, it doesn't matter how much damage you're taking, you're going to take control of the board.
Yeah.
If you take control of the board, that leaves you open.
Whoa! Oh, big roll here for Chakki. Thijs does have Direwolf Alpha to make sure he can take out one of these Feral Spirits, but that will relegate him to the Dark Peddler afterwards. It does fill out his curve really nicely, but I think ideally wanted to get this second Imp King boss down on this turn. That card is so good, but right now, not liking so much. So I'm going to fish first. Mortal Coil's not bad.
Mortal Coil can usually get some value here, but also Corruption has some merit as well, just for the fact that it's one of the best ways for you to deal with the Flame Wreath Faceless. But it does encourage your opponent to trade with it, so Mortal Coil's probably going to be the choice.
Well, really giving some thought to it. I don't mind the Corruption, because in the event that you face off against Think From Below or Flame Wreath, you probably just don't want to run all your minions in and hope that works. Just take your damage, let the hit happen, and not really too worried about it. So Mortal Coil, though, is definitely more flexible, and I don't think there's really much question about that. So the Direwolf Alpha, once again, filling up really nicely here, and this is almost certainly Doomhammer for Chakki.
Yeah, he's going to think this through, because with Flame Tongue Totem picked up, there's some interesting scenarios, but Doomhammer just fits the curve. It takes out 2 of these minions.
4 mana for next turn.
It allows Chakki to make a favorable trade because he can kill the 2 2/2s, then kill the 1/1 Imp, heals back up to 3 health, and so the Imp King boss doesn't even challenge it.
Cuts Julian fries. Doomhammer just does everything.
Yes, it does.
Who's that guy that did the Slap Chop commercial? I want to see him do a Doomhammer commercial. Vince, that's what it was.
Literally the same exact fashion, just like
a Shaman deck.
A Doomhammer is just poorly CGI'd over the Slap Chop.
I need Disguise Toast to make that happen.
He's like,
literally right now.
Slamming Doomhammer over and over again.
That would just be beautiful. Yep, we'll take out the Imp King boss. Doesn't want that to be enforced by a defender of Argus.
Yeah, he's still going to heal it back up. It allows just favorable trades once again from Chakki. So now he just has so much room to clear the board and develop his own stuff.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a race against what can Thijs utilize life tap to gain enough resources to push him over the edge in the matchup, or is Chakki going to be able to outrace and punish Thijs for having to life tap every turn?
Yeah, that Darkshire Councilman going to be a really key piece to this puzzle. Shaman doesn't have too many ways to effectively answer it. And when I say effectively, I don't mean that like they have to use multiple resources. It's just that it uses a lot of their turn. So if Darkshire Councilman gets played here, Chakki has to make the decision of how he wants to handle it. And ignoring it is not really an option. It's sort of a priority kill because the damage just adds up too much.
Yeah.
So his options for killing it are quite literally either expend Flame Tongue and pay a lot of life and Doomhammer charges, or Lava Burst it. And Lava Burst uses almost his entire turn. Thijs is going to go for MK Boss here, though.
Yeah.
Yep, holds back on the Abusive as well. Looking for trades with that one. Chakki would have picked up Rockbiter. But honestly, I look at that Rockbiter, and now I think Chakki may have some different plans in mind.
Yeah, plans that involve a big red arrow pointing right at Gul'dan's face. Sounds like a plan to me.
You know I don't have Morgul yet.
I've actually been wondering, like, what is that noise? I've listened to a lot of Hearthstone before because I've casted like hundreds and hundreds of hours, and I'm used to all the background noises, and I've been wondering this game, like, what is that noise? I've actually never casted a game of Morgul the Murloc Oracle.
You looked so timid when you said it.
Because I was like, this doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth, but I know it's right.
All my friends just already play Hearthstone.
It's so right, but it feels so wrong.
That's got to be a song, right? Like a Janis Joplin saying it or something.
Alanis Morissette.
Second Abusive Sergeant. If he'd have played that Abusive Sergeant last turn, he would have been able to push a little bit more damage or maybe take out the totem.
Yeah.
Now, that's not looking too bad either. I really would have liked to see this Darkshire Councilman last turn because it would have forced some action from Chakki. I mean, I'm guessing that Thijs' read on this is that the fact that the left card in Chakki's hand has been there the entire time.
Yeah. That
it's pretty likely to be a Rockbiter. I'm guessing that's where the thought process went. But now the Councilman's just looking bad.
Yeah.
That's sort of my issue with it. And if Chakki didn't have Rockbiter, you didn't give him an extra turn to draw it too. So we'll see how this ends up panning out. 2 Lava Bursts and a Flame Tongue Totem. I can promise you that Chakki is pushing damage this turn.
That's just, I mean, that's just game. It's almost guaranteed unless Thijs can kill him next turn. This turn he pushes 10 from the Doomhammer with the Rockbiter. Yeah. Pops that Flame Tongue Totem down, pushes an additional 5.
Chakki can take him, I think, to 3 this turn if I counted right. So it's 10 for Doomhammer, it's 5 for the board, that's 15, and then 5 more from a Lava Burst. So he can take him to 3.
Yeah.
Like, Chakki's pushing
with a Lava
Burst in hand while you're at 24. Whoa. Oh, he wants to conceal the Lava Bursts.
Yeah.
That's what he's trying to do. Not that that's going to make much of a difference in the long term. In fact, I think over the long term, it makes absolutely zero difference in this matchup. But Chakki, a very technical player, always wants to think out the entire turn and make the decision. Therefore,
yeah.
So this play pretty much spelled out exactly how you'd imagine. Even takes out the Abusive Sergeant, so there's no crazy weird lethals going on. Knows that the odds of Thijs having heal is quite literally relegated to Dark Peddler into Voodoo Doctor. And outside of that, Thijs is just not going to have healing in this build.
Count a total of 16 potential damage this turn.
I wonder.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I'm counting 16 as well.
So, but he's going to want to play Defender of Argus because he's going to try and block some damage from the Doomhammer.
Yeah, I would venture to say that Thijs doesn't necessarily sniff double Lava Burst here, like maybe one of them.
Maybe he thinks second Rockbiter is a possibility. Yeah. But I don't know. Rockbiter probably would have been used last turn because he did float a mana. So I don't think there'll be any reason not to, especially since both of those hits went face. So yeah, maybe he doesn't sip double Lava Burst, but I think Defender of Argus is a must anyway. And basically just going to try and remove what he can from the board, but main goal here is just to put Chakki in a 2-turn clock. So if he does survive the next turn, he will win.
Yep. So will not work, push as much as he can. But that Lava Burst draw kind of returns the damage that Thijs did in game number 1, and so tied series.
Yeah. Looked kind of rough at first, but Chakki managed to pull it together and find the burn that he needed. And Doomhammer really coming in handy there. If he didn't have that Doomhammer, there would have been many more minions on the board. Thijs would have had an earlier opportunity to use the Defender of Argus. So we're going back to that key turn where Chakki could have played Totem Golem and delayed his Doomhammer, but decided to go for the healing totem instead, and that just unlocked the game for him and led him to that game 2 victory.
Yeah, a lot of people think this matchup is incredibly lopsided, but kind of the more and more I've seen it, Doomhammer on turn 5, really looking like it's kind of the way that Shaman wins that matchup. So if you've been struggling a little bit versus Zoo with Shaman, may want to consider doing anything in your power to get Doomhammer on turn 5.
Yeah. So series is all tied up 1-1 now. So we got ourselves a good series on our hands. We are going to jump into Game 3 in just a moment. Before we do that, we're going to take a minute break. So don't go anywhere, guys. Conclusion of this series right after this.
Get your team apparel now at shop.eslgaming.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to ESL King of the Hill. I'm TJ, once again joined by That's Admirable, and we're 2 games into the set between Thijs and Chakki, the first match of the day in the first week of our Hearthstone King of the Hill series, and it's tied up 1-1.
Yeah, Chakki so far picked up a win with the Shaman. Thijs got one with the Druid, and the South ban really adding an interesting dynamic to the way this lineups, I think, panned out a lot. Chakki actually chose to bring Rogue to this one, despite his spreadsheet. Druid, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior was what he brought, and chose to ban his Warlock out against Thijs bringing Druid, Hunter, Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior.
Yeah.
And he chose to ban his own Hunter out of the lineup as well. So Hunter kind of, I think, a really interesting spot right now, and it makes it, I think, a little bit more powerful in the self-ban, because when your opponent has a lineup that's just not weak to Hunter, just take it out.
Yeah.
Easy as that. And Rogue, I feel like, kind of is in the same position where if your opponent just has a strong lineup, don't need the Rogue in there. Tuck it away. Yep.
Watch.
Yeah, and I think that's was definitely the game plan going in. Thijs realizing that he has to get through the whole tournament. He doesn't have to just get through Chakki. Chakki, maybe he had the read that he was playing fast decks, so he was going to self-ban his Hunter, but then he moves on to the next round, has to face either Fireban or Amnesiac. They might be playing slower decks where the Hunter's going to be a little bit better. So putting that in that lineup, allowing you to take a little bit more risks with your deck building. That's why I like the self-ban. But jumping into game number 3 here, Chakki on the Rogue versus Thijs once again on this Zoo Warlock.
I just noticed in the right of Thijs' camera, the trophy.
Oh, just a subtle brag on camera. Nice.
It's like when you're making like your old MySpace profiles and you make it a point to put your guitar in your background pictures.
The guitar that you never play.
Just sits there.
It's like your sister's guitar. Yeah. We've all been there.
There was a skateboard in one of mine. You know the last time I skateboarded was? Just go ahead and guess.
1999.
When was the last time you skateboarded? How old were you last time you skateboarded?
12.
Yeah, same.
I was a Razor scooter kind of guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, that makes a lot of sense when you say it.
Yeah.
You kind of just strike me as one now.
I had a wheelie bar. Custom wheels.
Nice.
They glow in the dark.
Chakki's kind of got the opening hand.
He's got the Razor scooter hand.
Is going to choose to backstep here, which I'm incredibly surprised by. Chakki had the potential to wait into backstab, coin, Edwin Van Cleef, which is sometimes lights out versus this build. Now, what he could be thinking, I think, in this situation is he anticipates Thijs going Flame Imp into a 2-drop, and so would rather have backstab into coin SI7 agent.
Yeah.
But is that better than the Edwin Van Cleef and taking some damage? That much I'm not sure about, but that's largely due to my inexperience with Rogue in this metagame.
Yeah, and it all depends on also what kind of Rogue Chakki's playing. If we think back to Seats3 Cup, Tyson Life Coach, who finished 1 and 2, or no, it was 1 and 3 or 1 and 4.
Yeah, 1 and 3rd.
They both made it to the semifinals. They both had Rogue in their lineup, but they had Dark Iron Skulker for the Zoo matchup. and just for the aggressive matchups in general. And they also had Argent Squire as well for similar reasons, you know, in that early game. And Chakki's got to be really happy to see that Knife Juggler on
Yeah,
team.
not only is that a high priority minion to kill, but it also fits exactly how his hand was working. So if this had been Dark Peddler, sure, you probably still coin the SI7 agent.
Yeah.
But now he sees the Knife Juggler. I'm curious where this thought actually goes, though. I mean, he does have the option to eviscerate. Just pass.
So
Yeah, but
many options.
you eviscerate. What do you face next turn? Either Imp King Boss or Darkshire Councilman, and then you have literally 0 answers to it. You have to cold blood it and then eviscerate it. Like that would be your best answer. So definitely like this play. Coin SI is one of the strongest plays this matchup and has been for a very long time.
Yep. 3-3 that deals 2. I mean, I thought the 2-1 that deals 2. And just yells Cthulhu a lot. I thought that guy was pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a pretty easy play. And this is looking like Chakki may have an awkward time clearing this. I mean, is this just Cold Blood Eviscerate? And then if you do that, do you trade over the 1-1? Like, that feels really rough.
Yeah. Maybe just Cold Blood and Dagger up.
So
Cold Blood trade and
many
Dagger
options.
up. Kill the 2-1.
I don't mind that either.
Or kill the
It's actually-
1-1.
It actually looks pretty good.
But then you got to think of your plays moving forward, too. You know, you can't just deal with the board state as is. You have to think, well, what's he going to play next turn? We're going into 4 mana, maybe a 3-drop and a 1-drop.
Right. And to me, that's why having the Eviscerate next turn means so much. Because not
Yeah.
only do you get the Dagger out of it, but you also get it the other way around.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's what Chakki's concluding. Hey, I'll tell you what, Cold Blood's a little bit like a Beast Sergeant in the spot.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Just don't have a 2-1 bodies.
But the 2 attack stays on the SI7 agent.
Right. So it's actually nothing like a Beast Sergeant. Sort of is actually, yeah, it does stick around.
It's like the old Abusive Sergeant if it also killed itself after it. Because the old Abusive Sergeant buff, for people that didn't play Hearthstone for as long as I did or Admirable did, it used to be permanent. It used to be a permanent buff.
Is that one really permanent?
I
remember Dark Iron Dwarf being permanent.
Wasn't Abusive Sergeant permanent as well?
I don't feel like it was. I know Dark Iron Dwarf was.
Maybe you're right. All right. It's like if Abusive Sergeant was like the old Dark Iron Dwarf and killed itself.
Going deep on this one. Yeah, kind of once again, over and over, it feels like Chakki's just been presented with really awkward circumstances on how to handle the board pressure.
Did it really not used to be permanent?
I feel like it was.
Is my mind getting blown right now?
Maybe.
Was I playing Hearthstone wrong all those years?
TJ's like, I swear this was lethal.
I counted lethal over 2 turns, but somehow I'm always 2 off when I play Abusive Sergeant. For an entire year of Hearthstone. That's why I couldn't break rank 20.
At least you got those card backs.
Indeed. Bizarre play.
Well, I know, bizarre. It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what are the other options here? I mean, if you really try to exploit this turn, it's like, Conceal Eviscerate. That's not any good. Fan of Knives, still no good. This is like the strongest play available, and this is Edwin getting any stronger. And to me, this is kind of what I looked at with that backstab on turn 1. If Chakki had this 6-6 Edwin bank lead instead, these would have been much less awkward turns. Now,
Yeah.
granted, his SI7 agent would have been a little bit more stranded, but his plays, I feel like, would have been cleaner overall.
Yeah.
But I'm not a rogue expert. So,
Disclaimer.
yeah.
I am a rogue expert.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
Chakki, or I'm sorry, TJ has exclusively played Rogue for the last 65 games.
You got it.
Preparation's
Oh,
not
man.
bad.
That's sick. Azure Drake prep fan.
That actually, no. Azure Drake, prep, eviscerate the 3-5, run the 5-1 over the Voidwalker, dagger into the 2-1, your opponent has a 1-1, and you have Fan of Knives for the reload on Forbidden Ritual. Wow! I'm stunned. This is really interesting to me because really the only way that Thijs gets back into this game is quite literally Forbidden Ritual or Doomguard. I guess either one of those works, but if your opponent Doomguards, it's almost like the same.
Yeah, I suppose.
Very surprising. And so plot twist has now ensued.
Maybe
I can tell you
Chakki's not
what.
necessarily worried about Forbidden
That's-
Ritual.
It's a good point. I mean, I imagine that, you know, daggers are on trade duty, but that Azure Drake, it's got one place.
That place. That's the face.
Yep. Anything, I think, to occupy Chakki's attacks is a pretty decent call right now.
Oh,
Really.
man. So, full clear is possible here with the power of a Wami.
Is that a questing adventurer in Chakki's hand?
It is.
I just noticed that.
Really? It's golden, it's hiding.
Look at that guy's face.
Stop yelling!
He's like, what the?
Why
How did I order this much food? It's like
That-
he's shocked at the deck list that Chakki's playing right now.
That food is a quest.
Well, look at his face. He's so confused.
Yeah. Confused at his,
What kind of rules are these?
at his own headband.
It's a nice
But-
headband.
Yeah. See if Chakki really did some extra cycle, but he's really not behind at the moment. I mean, he's got a health lead.
Well, that is a really interesting draw.
Questing Adventure, Shadow Strike, Coin, Eviscerate is a full clear.
Solid. And you,
Oh, boy.
and you get the old fun. Give him a quest, boys.
Here's your quest. Kill the Thijs.
I got a quest for you. I'm stunned right now. I don't think I've actually seen this guy in action in competitive play yet.
No, I've seen, but I mean, there's
I've
been a
seen it
lot
like
of
a
players.
ladder,
Yeah.
But most of the time my opponent plays it and I'm like, okay, attack you with my Draconid Crusher.
Yeah, and with the self-ban format, you can pick Rogue with more confidence because you know that if your opponent's playing a lineup, like an especially aggressive lineup, you can always just go ahead and ban away your own.
Put this apple on your head.
This is getting really scary for
My
Thijs.
shield
Yeah.
for Argus!
I mean, that's a
Oh,
very
that's not where he
inefficient
wants to be.
use.
Oh, my gosh.
boy.
Quest accepted.
Oh, boy.
And that guy's level 7 already. You ever tried to get to level 7 that fast? It doesn't work, TJ. When I tried to grind that Leandry portrait, it took so long for me to get there. That's just partially because I'm bad at questing.
Yeah.
But it took quite a while to get to level 7 for me. Chakki's done it in 2 turns.
He just used the Recruiter Friend program. And his friend
That actually made the game really fun to me.
was spell damage.
Soulfire can kill it.
Oh, yeah?
Requires the rest of his cards.
He will be left with the Dark Peddler on the board. And an Abusive Sergeant. So, you know, maybe he can do it. But the thing is, Chakki has put Thijs down to 7 health. He will have a card draw next turn as well if he wants to trade in the Blood Mage Thalnos.
Oh, my. Round 2.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Give me a quest.
1 golden and 1 non-golden. This is very un-Chakki-like today.
Job done.
He's turning a new leaf. He's playing Rogue. He's got a mix of golden and non-golden cards. Something's happening, TJ.
I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if I like it.
Ooh. Not quite the turn that Thijs was looking for.
No, and that's there's no way out of this one. He is dead on the board. And he's going to quickly realize it. Go ahead and concede, and that's Chakki taking game number 3, going up 2-1 in the series.
Yeah, I mean, what a very interesting build. And that, honestly, it doesn't surprise me too much. I know that Chakki's practiced a little bit in the last week or so.
Yeah.
But I think that the major influencer here is quite literally the self-ban format, where players can feel more free to take risks with their deck choices and with the cards within those deck choices as well. Because if you have a weak spot with it, you can tuck it away, keep it safe. It's like a little puppy that you put back inside, so that the neighborhood cat doesn't terrorize it anymore.
Yep. Well said. Touched my heart. Thank you very much for that, Admirable. But Chakki, yeah, he's got a 2-1 lead now, taking him with that Rogue. So now that's out of the way. And he took it in a matchup that's, you know, not traditionally been tough, but has become tougher since the last format change, since Whispers came out in that Zoo matchup. So I got to feel good for him. He's going to move into game number 4 with that lead. Before we jump into that game, we're going to have to take a quick break, guys. But don't go anywhere. Enjoy this commercial. We'll be right back with more Hearthstone. Welcome back, everybody, to ESL's King of the Hill. We're about halfway through the first match of the day, Chakki versus Thijs, and it has delivered so far. Chakki fell down in the first match, but managed to come back and has a 2-1 lead now over Thijs, and looking like he might run away with this series, judging by the rest of his decks here.
Yeah, I mean, Warrior still looking fantastic in Chakki's lineup. I've yet to see the Druid build.
Druid as well, yeah.
Venture to say it's a Yogg build. Kind of that's been the majorly favored Druid build over the last month or so. It was Druid's kind of been in a really interesting spot where at the start of the Wisps of the Old Gods meta, or Whispers of the Old Gods meta, I always call it Wisps of the Old Gods. At the start of the Whispers meta, everyone was like, Druid's terrible, doesn't compete. And I was kind of in that camp, and then saw some Cthulhu Druids start creeping up. I was like, hey, these really aren't that bad. They're pretty solid. And then very shortly thereafter, the Token Druids sort of emerged, and it was like, wow, this deck is good.
Don't forget the week where Beast Druid was good.
That was for one tournament. We caught a lot of people off guard. Beast Druid actually had a great win rate at that event, by the way.
I know, because so many people were playing greedy control decks like N'Zoth Paladin.
It's great.
It was great.
They did not handle a innervated 5-2 very well.
No.
Druid of the Flame?
Not at all.
Nada.
Or even just, and then next turn you innervate it and you mark if you Astraz it. They don't handle a 7-4 very well either.
Yep. Whoa, opening hands for these guys. Pretty darn good. It looks like, is that a Tempo Warrior?
A Patron Warrior, perhaps.
Yeah, Patron would be a good call too. So we're looking to see a little bit more of this lineup before, of the card choices before I make a call on this. But those are not very strong hero powers if he's playing basically any of these builds. He's already got Fire War X, so Dagger Master he's cut into. Reinforce is just not strong. And Totemic Call?
I don't know, Admirable. I think Shaman's the strongest class in the game. Picking the hero power of the strongest class in the game seems pretty good to me.
TJ does not have any look of sarcasm on his face, and there are no hints of sarcasm, but he takes it.
Thijs agrees. My man.
I'm writing a formal complaint right now. Pretty easy turn here, I'd say, for Chakki. Alex Strauss, the champion, just kind of far and away the best play, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe he's thinking about Fairy Dragon. Does have 2 of those. I could see Fairy Dragon, actually. This is like probably a pretty rare spot to actually play one.
Especially if you have a second one, because usually Alex Strauss's champion comes before Fairy Dragon, because in the opening hand, a lot of times, you only have one dragon.
Yeah. This will also kind of create the read to Thijs that Alex Strauss's champion is not present in hand at the moment. It's very rare that you see someone coin a Fairy Dragon if they have any of the other options. And Fire War X going to lightning speed exit the hand.
It's like Thijs is going backwards. Dragon Warrior came because it shored up the weaknesses of Tempo Warrior in other matchups.
Right.
And could be aggressive in the matchups where you needed to go more aggressive, like in Rogue. But Thijs is like, well, now that those decks are going away a little bit, maybe I'll just go backwards. Oh, nope, it's Patron. Forget everything I just said.
Well, Patron is kind of a little bit backwards, too. I mean, that was like the early Warrior
very
choice.
early.
Like right at the start, Patron was thought to just be like the deck.
With Yogg-Saron in it.
Some people did, start teching in Yoggs. I do remember that. I wasn't one of them. I instead teched in Arcanite Reapers, which was, it was weird. But I'll tell you what, when
hit him in the face for 5.
Yeah, that was, and I eventually added in Argent Commanders too. It worked really well in the greedy matchups. The problem was I couldn't sustain pushes versus aggressive builds.
Yeah.
Which that makes for not a very good Patron deck, because that's sort of the point of that one.
For the life binder.
All right, well, Blood to Hicker, Alex Strauss's champion, puts the most stuff on the board. It also makes the turn a little bit more awkward for Thijs. So what Chakki's going to try and do here is, I guess, just try and stick a Frothing Berserker with full control over the board.
Yeah, there's that Yogg-Saron.
Oh, baby.
Do you think that slime feels icky?
Yeah, it does.
I have an axe to grind.
Get it?
Is that like a play on words for
Blood to
the
Ichor.
acidic swamp ooze?
Some blood to Ichor. I think he feels icky.
Oh.
Bam! I'm smart.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Finley.
Great one.
Gonna be the play for Chakki here, looking for probably a 1 damage hero power. Shapeshift likely to be good enough here, I'd say.
Yep. Does mean that Chakki can't do anything else this turn.
Yeah, I mean,
Shapeshift and smack into that puppy, and then pass the turn with just a 1/3 on the board.
What
I mean,
now?
this is definitely rough. His hand just didn't develop very well. Thijs really shut down the opener here with the Fiery War Axe. And that's kind of the reason that card is so strong, is against some of the strongest minions in the game right now, it's just even better.
Yeah.
Hashtag Warriors. Sir
Hashtag
Finley
nuance.
stands alone. That's a pretty powerful draw. Honestly, I could see Thijs justifying holding on to the Acolyte until next turn. But I can also see him just playing it here. Like, say he rolls a Taunt Totem. Doesn't even want to know.
He just wants the Blood Ichor this turn.
Oh, that's a little bit interesting. Wild Pyromancer Blood to Ichor is very strong. Does pick up Battle Rage, which I think is pretty equally strong. Chakki's hand continues to get heavier. And the pan out here definitely favors Thijs.
Oh, for sure. One thing, though, is Thijs did give up armor up, so if Chakki manages to get control of the board and stick some of these big
What
threats,
now?
might be in a spot where he can end the game a little bit quicker, but Thijs does have the Oxeron, so
He's also got a lot of card draw.
that's true. It's also very true.
Yeah, but Chakki's, I mean, his turn 5 is weak. His turn 6 is going to be weak. His turn 7's looking weak. That's really interesting.
I think he realizes that the Acolyte's going to get 3 cards anyway, so he wants to try and keep the Sir Finley as healthy as possible. In the case of a Ravaging Ghoul, it doesn't kill it off.
That's really interesting.
Because if he kills the slime there, he leaves the Finley at a 1/1. So then the Acolyte of Pain could just trade into it anyway.
Yeah.
He's going to get 3 draws out of it regardless.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you might as well trade that in.
It's a little weaker to slam, but
It also confuses the Thijs.
I wonder.
which is the only thing I'm ever really concerned with when I'm playing against him.
Yeah.
How much can it confuse my opponent? Well, Frowling Berserker looking pretty...
Blade be thirsty.
I don't know, it's looking pretty weak here, honestly. This could get really dangerous for Thijs. Here's the Patron. Slam gets picked up as well.
Well, one thing is, how does Dragon Warrior deal with a board full of patrons? Answer, they don't.
I think he's trying to punch through him. Azure Drake is really awkward right now as well. Not having the mana to kill the 2-1 afterwards. He's probably just going to have to risk this, honestly. Like, I don't really see a situation where Chakki lets or does anything this 2-1. I mean, like, maybe value trades here. It's going to be really hard to pass up 7 damage or take out the Frowling Berserker.
Ugh.
It just feels bad. I mean, there's not really much else you can do there, though.
Yeah.
Like, is he just gonna leave the Frowling Berserker alive versus like what appears to be the Whirlwind deck? It's like, oh, I died? What? How did that happen?
Yeah, but then he dies and he has a big Frothin' Berserker also. So if he doesn't die the next turn.
Did it ever happen to you when you were playing Old Patron Warrior? Like,
Where
you went
my
for the
opponent
combo?
missed lethal and they didn't kill my Frothin' Berserker, so my Frothin' Berserker was like a 128-1.
Yeah, that way. Not where you do it and your opponent has the Frowling Berserker. I've never done that.
Hey.
Let the pain speak to me.
Yeah, I don't make mistakes when I play Hearthstone.
I'll tell it yesterday in the road build.
I don't make mistakes when I play Hearthstone. Only happy accidents.
I'll tell you what, Blackwing Corruptor was a pretty solid draw here.
Yeah.
It's the first one we've seen from Chakki against Dragon Warrior. Gets to add the Fairy Dragon to it. It's done. His dragons have done enough work at this point. It's time for Ragnaros and Gromish to try to carry this game.
Yeah.
But Thijs in his own Grom and Yoxeron may have something to say about that. And a Whirlwind gets picked up. This is a big turn for Thijs.
He might want to wait a turn, though.
Does he?
Well,
Does he really not want to play Wild Pyromancer, Grim Patron?
because he doesn't clear off the Blackwing Corruptor.
What now?
And if he uses 3 spells Well, he'll kill off his Wild Pyromancer first, so yeah, he won't be able to kill off the Blackman Corruptor. He can Grom this turn, and then go for a board full of patrons next turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I could kind of see where you're going. I don't believe it, though. This is like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is like 6 patrons he gets, isn't it?
I think it's 5.
Oh, right, because the extra one dies off
Yeah, yeah.
space to duplicate. Or to propagate, rather.
Yeah. Propagation Nation.
Ooh, this is actually really smart. I like that a lot. It's really clever. Whirlwind gonna make 4 patrons on board. Pyromancer's gonna activate. I think that keeps them healthier. Or 2 of them healthier is what it does.
I thought it was exactly the same.
Is it exactly the same? Maybe it is.
One sec, let me write down a complicated math equation to figure it out. 1 + 3. No.
Wow.
All right, so Chakki's just on the miracle plan,
Yeah.
but
Whoa! Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how he's going to win this game, is like quite literally a perfect Ragnaros shot.
yeah. So if he had gone Patron, then Wild Pyromancer, he would have interraged, and it would have spawned another one, and then 2 more, so it would have been exactly the same as using that Whirlwind. And then the Wild Pyromancer would have died, and then he would have Whirlwinded again. It's the exact same effect.
No, the Wild Pyromancer doesn't trigger off the second Whirlwind because the Whirlwind kills it.
Yeah, but the Wild Pyromancer didn't trigger off the first one
Gotcha.
because...
I gotcha.
So
Yeah.
either way, you get 2 Whirlwind
Okay.
effects and an interrage.
Cool. You're right.
Maybe he just freaked out at the last second. Or maybe I'm wrong, I'm just forgetting a step, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 Whirlwind effects and an interrage regardless.
I mean, us being wrong is not really uncommon.
yeah,
I feel like at this point.
yeah.
Go with Ravaging Bull over the Slam, looks like.
This is somewhat dangerous.
I mean, the cards it's weak to are like non-existent Dragon Warrior, like
If Chakki has,
Baron Geddon. Like Baron Geddon's just not.
well, if Chakki had 2 Whirlwind effects, it would clear the whole board almost.
Yeah, Chakki, when he uses the hero power and just passes here, this is effectively a concession.
Yeah,
He's trying to see if he can get more information, I think.
yeah. Like, do you have the second page?
Yeah. I don't know, maybe there's some sort of grand game plan in mind here.
yeah. Maybe just thinking about what he's going to throw out for his next game, because this one is over.
Yeah. Unzo. Period. Great spot from Thijs to note the slam. Will give him unlock the lethal this turn. Won't give Chakki the extra turn. So, 2 apiece. Pretty even series so far. I don't really expect much less either from players of this caliber. You know, occasionally you'll see someone just have brought such a smart lineup that they just kind of counter their opponent.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the games are going to be traded back and forth quite a bit. Rick really understanding just sort of the dynamics overall and,
Yeah.
and having well-rounded spots for this one. Obviously, Patron Warrior, if it's not under immense pressure, can really put some hurt on Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior really relies on seizing the board early on to punish their opponents.
Yeah, so now Chakki has Druid Warrior left, and Thijs has Shaman Warlock. So sort of the top 4 decks in the meta right now remaining for these players. So, yeah, 2 more matches left, match wins left for these guys to move on to the finals of the King of the Hill. But before we jump into game number 5, we're going to have to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere, guys. More Hearthstone King of the Hill right after this. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ESL King of the Hill, week number 1. My name is CJ. I'm joined once again by That's Admirable. And we're getting close to the conclusion of this first series. This is a close one. Chakki versus Thijs is all tied up now at 2 apiece. And some pretty hard-hitting decks left remaining for both these guys.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Druid and Warrior left for Chakki. On Thijs' side, he's got Shaman and Warlock. And did see that it was a Zoo build, a Warlock. Likes to favor Reno a lot. Said it's actually one of his favorite decks. But Thijs is kind of be the player who he's going to bring what he thinks is best to an event, not necessarily just his favorite decks. It's one of the reasons why he wins.
Yep.
Surprise.
Surprise, good decks are good. That's how it's been.
This and more, news at 5.
And Shaman deck, probably mid-range, but he might throw in an aggro deck. He seems to favor the mid-range Shaman more often than not, but he did play the aggressive Shaman, I believe, at the European Championship that he won. I think like everybody played aggro Shaman back then.
It's so good.
Yeah, I don't know. Mid-range Shaman just started to get a little bit better because it has better matchups against some of the decks that you see now. You sort of need Lightning Storms. Even aggressive Shamans are taking in Lightning Storms because you need a way to deal with big boards from Druids. And also, Zoo is so popular, and Reno Warlock is not popular at all anymore. So that's why some players tend to lean towards mid-range, because you can more easily find a spot for Lightning Storm in the deck. Here we go.
Yep. Whelps, many whelps.
So
Not
Chakki's
right now, though.
playing a sort of greedier version of the deck as well.
Oh.
He's playing the double 9 drop.
That hand is atrocious for Chakki.
Fight, maggot!
Talking about he could mulch something.
Wow, this is just a bad opening hand. You know, so this is kind of actually like one of the ways that Druid loses, is they're just like, oh, well, don't have anything to do.
Didn't draw Innervate, didn't draw Wild Growth.
Yeah.
Drew a bunch of situational spells like Soul of the Forest, Mulch, and Savage Roar.
Yeah, you may look at that Soul of the Forest and be like, what on earth is that card doing in here? But the late game power of some of these slower decks is pretty real.
Yeah.
And so Soul of the Forest is quite literally meant to build up a big board state and then cast Soul of the Forest on a ton of tokens. If your opponent does not have 2 board sweeps after that, Savage Roar or Wisps of the Old Gods buff potential becomes massively unlocked.
Yeah.
It's usually enough to end the game after that.
Yeah. Very true.
Single copy.
One single copy. All right, well, Chakki is going to need some help with something like an Innervate, because Thijs has got a pretty decent hand. You know, he's got early game minions. He's got Darkshire Councilman. He could try and empty his hand before turn 5 to get that Doomguard out. So, yeah, this is not looking that good. And a Wisps of the Old Gods is not what he wants to see at this point in time.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the worst draws of the deck right now, I'd say. Really looking for something to unlock potential here, but the ship might have just sailed on that at this point.
Yeah.
Thijs is going to get a pretty significant board lead. And like you said, Chakki's quite literally going to have to rely on Mulch to buy him just enough time to get going.
Mulch. And also, he's got to rely on Mulch not giving Thijs a very impactful minion as well. You know, usually the downside is pretty minimal, because players make their decks to be 30 cards that they want. And so a lot of times they're going to have a play anyway, so they won't be able to fit in that Mulch minion unless it's highly situational. Wow.
Just terrible looking.
I mean, double Savage Roar is a little bit of a greedy choice for this type of deck.
I would imagine that if you're going to play double Savage Roar, you're probably anticipating a little more control from your opponents. Thijs' hands, we've suddenly moved to Arena.
Storm Pike Commando.
I feel like that guy is like every other pick for me when I play Arena.
He's actually pretty good in Arena.
Don't you give me that.
I like him.
I like him. He looks cool.
Just like Ironforge Rifleman.
I mean, he's got a huge gun, but...
My favorite card in the game is Ironforge Rifleman. And nobody's going to convince me otherwise.
I'm calling you out on this right now.
There's something about just those 3-mana 2/2s with one damage battle cries that just get me going.
Exactly what I'm getting you for your birthday.
An Ironforge Rifleman, life-size figurine.
No!
That actually shoots little pellets.
I was just thinking like a custom-made birthday card. For Rifleman.
No. That'd still be cool. I like that card that much.
I don't even know what that card says when it enters play.
Pay attention, class.
I've got an Decent sized gun.
Violet Teacher, Chakki is relegated to this play. Thijs with tons of counterplay. This game is pretty one-sided.
Yeah. I mean, the question here is, do you go with the weaker play with Doomguard, or do you go with the stronger play with Stormbite Commando?
Well, I actually think the Stormbite Commander is a stronger play because your hand is so valuable at this point. Like, you just sack the Flame Imp, I think.
It's actually going to go with the wider play.
Yeah. Crazed Alchemist is pretty weak, too, so being able to utilize that, I think, is pretty important.
Yeah.
You love my new wrist.
And if he hits the juggle here, he might be able to trade in the weaker minion with the Dark Peddler. Still gets one more chance for the juggle. Still give a trade in the Flame Imp, though.
Get it out! Get it out!
If need be. Yeah.
Well,
but Chakki's still in a lot of trouble.
to say the least. I mean, I don't even know what card could get him out of this.
Starfall.
Really interesting play.
Thijs not respecting the Starfall.
Look! Look! Right on time! Hashtag thanks, Wild Growth. Hashtag TJ's favorite card is not Iron Forge Rifleman.
It's all on hashtag. That's approaching 140 characters right there.
What to do? Where shall
That's fine with me.
Hashtag Admirable is wrong. TJ's favorite card is, in fact, Iron Forge Rifleman. Double Doomguard's a bit awkward.
They travel in packs.
But, I mean, no reason to really play it, I guess, if you have Sea Giant.
Do you remember the Naxxramas expansion where my ex would play Sea Giant against you and Kel'Thuzad was just appalled? It's like, my ex that is not on my approved cards list. And now it's just like in every zoo build.
Yeah.
The card's actually pretty sick. Chakki gonna scoop it up. No way to deal with Sea Giant post mulch and just an atrocious looking opening hand. You know, that's like, it's kind of the story of playing Druid. Either you have lots of ways to get some solid interaction going, and you play a kind of a real game, which is most of the time, but sometimes you just have those games where your hand does nothing.
And that's one of them, yeah. I mean, the deck is strong because of its ramp potential, because you can just win games early with Innervate, with Wild Growth, being ahead of your opponent in mana the entire game. But Chakki did make some greedy deck choices, having double Savage Roar, double Wisps of the Old Gods, with Soul of Force, lots of situational cards. So
very clearly anticipating more control.
Yeah, but now that means Thijs is one game away from securing this series and moving on to the week #1 King of the Hill finals. Will he be able to do it? We'll find out in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, guys. More Hearthstone right after this.
He's going to get the one kill in that bombing coming onto the side. Phoenix has to stay up. No! He gets the triple at Phoenix! Oh my god, what a way to win that round! They don't have a smoke, so this over still.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ESL King of the Hill. I'm TJ, that's Admirable, and I had an idea during the break. What if that's Blizzard's way to show us new decks that we haven't found yet, is to put them in a PvE encounter? Blizzard's sitting there thinking, wow, the Hearthstone community are idiots for not thinking of Sea Dragon before this. Just throw it into PvE encounter, give them the idea. Just think, in One Night in Karazhan, Ben Brode's Unicorn Priest. There's going to be a priest encounter, and Ben Brode is going to be sitting there like, okay, I'm going to have to spoon feed you guys this priest deck. There's going to be like one card that everybody's like, ugh, why did I think of that?
What if like the trick to it was that all of the cards in the hand were just always molded to be the perfect answer? Like, man, this priest deck's really good. I just don't draw that way.
Yeah. He just gets everybody to play priest, and then just plays decks that are good against priest. That's how Ben Brode farms ladder points. All right, well, going into what could be the last game of this series, Thijs has a 3-2 lead. They're playing for a spot in the finals.
Yeah, Aggro Shaman, just such a strong build. Lava Burst, a very big indicator of that. Chakki's been struggling a little bit with this Dragon Warrior build. I mean, his draws have not really produced versus the openers that Thijs has had. When he had Dragon Warrior versus Warrior open, his hand got shredded by Fiery War Axe. The first matchup he played, he had an extremely weak couple of turns leading into Draconid Crusher. Thijs, meanwhile, ramped into double Ancient of War. Just everything's kind of gone wrong for Chakki in some of the series here. But Thijs's choices, I think, really impacting this a lot. The fact that he chose to bring Zoo instead of Reno, and then Patron. I mean, the Patron looked like it looks like it's almost just farming Chakki's lineup.
Yeah. That was going to take one regardless. So yeah, we'll see what Chakki can do. But right off the bat, does not get a great opening hand. Misses Fire War Axe, which is pretty crucial in that matchup. Misses some of those early game drops like Blood to Ichor. Does get Sir Filling, though. This can be pretty impactful. We can't see the choices now. Of course, there's been an ongoing spectator issue for months and months now with Discover mechanics. But you know what? We'll go ahead and guess.
I'm guessing Reinforce, Dagger Up.
Lesser Heal.
Yeah.
He's going to pick Lesser Heal.
Yeah.
If it's taken this long, it's either that or there's three good choices. Either that or it's Life Tap, Steady Shot, Pig.
Well, I will say Dagger Up's pretty good versus Shaman.
Yeah, and especially if you don't have Fire War Axe early on. Life Tap. I'm surprised that's a hard choice because...
Well, look at the matchup is really the reason why. I mean, in this matchup, if Chakki just chooses to Life Tap over and over again, he's going to get set in that burn range really soon.
It's probably between like Life Tap and Ping, maybe.
I mean, he's got to work hard to get this value, and it's going to start very early on.
Ugh.
Yeah, no help.
Nothing. And Thijs has... He sniffs blood at the moment.
Just slump his head to the side like...
Yeah.
Not like this. I mean...
Chakki's mood is 100% dependent on how low the produce sign is on his wall. And that thing is touching his bed. He's upset.
just slumps
Every
down.
day when Chakki wakes up in the morning, he adjusts his produce sign to his mood that day. And that thing's camping real low.
Just manually adjusts it. How does it stay up there? Is the entire wall Velcro?
Yeah. Wouldn't put it past him.
Have you ever seen those places where you put on the Velcro seat and you jump to the wall and stick?
I've done them and they hurt.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I've never done one.
Because unless you get like a tailor-made Velcro suit, like your body just wiggles around so much in those things. And like you go and you jump and you stick to the wall, and then like the Velcro suit like pulls out your neck and like chokes you. Or like it just like rides up under your underarms and like you start to get that real big underarm rash.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, don't recommend unless you have the money to drop on a tailor-made Velcro suit. So
it's down to 25. Really easy turn here for Thijs after he lands the Flame Juggle. Just go ahead and lightning bolt and full steam ahead. Chakki, meanwhile, I'm looking at that Core Chrono lead. I mean, the rest of this hand seems pretty subpar in relation to this.
yeah.
There's a copy of Sylvanas here in Chakki's build as well, so everything we've seen from him kind of tends to signal that he was anticipating more of these slower style builds.
Yeah.
Thijs.
Searing Totem. Sometimes Searing Totem can be really solid, but of course it's no Mana Tide or Totem Golem, of course. I mean, I don't know. Chakki is just in so much trouble now because he's given up his armor up, so all of this damage that Thijs is doing to him is sticking. Chakki needs to find a way to not only gain control of the board, but also keep his own life total in check. And then find a way to start putting Thijs on a clock himself, which is so hard, especially with he's only playing one card a turn from here on out. So, I don't know. It's going to be really tough. And look at all that burn in Thijs' hand. Abusive Sergeant, Flame Tongue, Lava Burst.
Now, something we have seen from Thijs over and over again, though, is when he's got a lot of damage like this and not a lot of options, really, in terms of development afterwards, that he's played fairly defensive. So I'm curious if he's going to just like really just push for lethal here. I mean, if anything, I think the life tap could really influence it. But I don't necessarily think that's 100% going to be the choice for here for Thijs. Like, I mean, I would look at this hand personally, and I'm just going face. I think that pushing the damage here just means everything. You're just a couple points off afterwards.
What to do?
But again, we've seen Thijs play really defensively. At Seat Story Cup, he was doing it. And in this series so far, he's been doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Lightning Storm as well.
Yeah, I think he's gonna take this one slow.
Oh, yeah. No trades, only face.
Get in there and fight, maggot!
All right, that's a pretty good trade.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Again, I think I just would push 5 still, but either way, it ends up in a pretty favorable spot. I mean, it's hard to come away unfavorable in that one. Blackwing Corruptor is a nice draw. I mean, is there potential for him to get back in this though?
He's only removing the board every turn. He's not, and he's taking damage, so he's not getting him closer to his own win condition, and he's not taking any steam from Thijs' win condition. He's just sort of getting through the turns and going through the motions. So, yeah, so I like this play. You know, Blackwing Corruptor would be able to take out that Flame Tongue Totem, but Sylvanas is proactive. You know, it forces Thijs to think a little bit differently. It forces him into a little bit of an awkward position. He can't just trade and then move on. He has to really think about how he does this turn.
Yeah, Sylvanas, honestly, kind of an awkward board state. Taunt Totem's pretty good.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, no surprise to see the push. Just go ahead and connect for 4. Yeah, I think for below, I think it's just purely a liability here because of the Sylvanas.
Yeah. But also, I mean, there's a lot of targets he could steal that aren't impactful. And the Sylvanas, if Chakki has a way to deal with the Taunt Totem, could just trade in the Totem Golem and, you know, get sort of that same outcome. But
Yeah. We'll see if that's going to end up being the case here. I mean, now Blackwing Corruptor looking a little bit more impactful in terms of swinging this board. It is an issue that Life Tap is Chakki's hero power, though. I mean, this is really... Now this is where it starts to turn around. I mean, he got his couple of cards early on, which I think has really helped him stabilize. Or at least, like, be on the brink of stabilizing, rather.
yeah.
But now it's turning into sort of a negative effect. And Thijs, again, he has taken, like, no damage. So there's a lot of time for him to find the burn spells he needs. And you can't give aggro shamans that much time.
No. Sometimes even if you only give him like 6 turns, you're already dead.
Yeah.
One time I died doing aggro shaman on turn 5. Back when it was mech aggro shaman, I died doing aggro shaman on turn 3.
Oh, I mean, those were the cool ones. I like those a lot.
Yeah.
Where do you trade? Do you peel 4 damage guaranteed off the board with the Sylvanas swing and the Flame Tongue? Chakki has been known to take risks. And this is certainly one of them. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage available for Thijs this turn. We can even see what Sir Finley Murgleton brings.
I don't think there's any potential lethal this turn. No, there's not. But if he picks up a steady shot, he can go over 2 turns. Oh.
Well, Dagger Mastery I still don't even think is that bad.
Yeah.
Just representing a damage every turn.
Yeah. Start hitting him in the face.
One more than you normally had.
And does that setup guaranteed? Almost. If the Spell Power Totem lives. And that would be. And I don't think Chakki has a way to deal with everything.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly tough. And that's sort of what I look at last time we attacked the Flame Tongue Totem is, was there a better way to do it?
Yeah.
And even with the Blackwing Corruptor drawn here, there's no way to activate that execute. It's been stranded in hand. And early on, once again, Chakki was also staring at Grommash and Ragnaros for multiple turns.
Yeah.
So just Dragon Warrior really being the weak spot here for Chakki in the series. I wonder if that's a product more of the draws or of the way that Thijs' lineup kind of works against this one.
Yeah, and Thijs knows this one is in the bag. He's guaranteed a victory at this point. And Chakki's just going to try and trade off as much as he can, but That is going to be Thijs taking the series 4-2 with an Argent Horse Rider on the top. He's going to move on to the finals. And in the battle of the kings of King of the Hill, Thijs comes out victorious.
Yeah, I mean, just really great lineup, I'd say, for Thijs overall. Do really like bringing in Hunter, and something that's actually I really like seeing from Thijs is him turning up the heat a little bit. I mean, this guy tends to play a lot of slow builds, and right now the metagame, the aggressive builds are so very refined, and they're very strong.
Yeah.
To see Thijs go that route and kind of step away from the traditional, like take it slow and steady, play combo deck sort of thing, and watch him, again, put pressure on his opponents, that's the Thijs that I want to see, because when he unlocks that aggressive potential, that he's going to be scary with the aggro decks. I mean, that's where a lot of players are sort of get their bread and butter play.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him incorporate that more into his play overall.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the first match in the books. We have 2 more matches left to go today. Of course, the second semifinal and the finals. Thijs will go on and face the winner of Amnesiac and Firebat, which will be our next match coming up. Before we jump into that match, we are going to need to take a little bit of an extended break, guys, but you're not going to want to go anywhere. We have plenty more Hearthstone action, so don't go anywhere. ESL King of the Hill will return right after this.